Okay, so this is going to be a tutorial on creating a spacecraft in Blender. So I'm going to go ahead and set up my scene. I'm going to shove these onto another layer. I'm going to hide my floor grid because I don't really need that for this tutorial. So display and floor grid. That's gone. I'm also going to hide that. I don't want these things showing up when I select objects. So instead of having that, I'm going to hide it. Okay, so there's our cube, which we're going to start with, and then we are going to head over into edit mode, and I'm going to divide this cube with a loop cut. And once I've done that, vertexes, and I'm going to select these 4 vertexes, X and V. We'll delete those vertexes, and that gives us a half shape, because we're going to add a mirror modifier, because that way then we get 2 for 1. We only have to model half of our image, you see, because the other half is being done for us, and it will just model. So we turn on clipping. That means then that our pieces will join up nicely and we won't have vertexes merging across. So that's all good to go. Right, so we're going to, first of all, the important thing is to block out the main features. So we'll go to G, and we're going to grab, and we're going to start at the front of our spacecraft and work backwards. So it's a good place to start, I think. So we'll come out like this. So the front of our spacecraft is going to be at an angle. So one of the important things when we're modeling these sci-fi type objects is that it needs to maintain realism, but at the same time have an element of surrealism. So it's sometimes a little tricky to do, but it's all part of the challenge. So I'm going to subdivide this front part here. So we'll select the 2 edges, and we'll go to subdivide. That will split it in half. We'll grab that edge, and we'll bring it down. And we'll grab this face. No, hold on, we'll grab this top edge first of all. Move this backwards. This is going to be our cockpit kind of window. Move that back a little also. Let's move the whole of the top of our object up. Okay, so I think that's good now for the front. Maybe we'll just taper it slightly. Don't want it to be exactly square, so we'll grab those 2 edges and we'll bring those in. Oops, both of them. There. Okay, so there's the front of our spacecraft. Now let's work on the body. So body's going to be pretty straightforward. And again, we're just working on blocking out right now the main details. We don't really want to get too bogged down in the fine details. We're looking more at the bigger picture right now. What our spacecraft is going to look like. So it's going to be our body there. That comes back a little bit further. And then I'm going to grab that side face, and we're going to put the wings in. So we'll extrude. I'm going to move that down. Yep. And then I'm going to move it forwards a little bit. Going to have slightly swept forward wings, and then this rear edge here, we're also then going to move forwards. There's going to be our wings, and then this edge will move down. I'm going to extrude again. I'm going to move that down and in a little bit. Okay, I think they're a little bit long, so I'm going to grab these edges and G, X, Bring those in. Okay, and these two edges here. Okay, I think my proportions are looking about right. You don't want your wings to be too big in comparison to the rest of the spacecraft, but it's about good. Also might want to bring these edges forwards as well. There, so that's our shape. I wonder what happens if I bring this back one back. What do you think of that? No, I don't like that. We'll keep that swept forward shape. I think that's good. Okay, so now let's come around to the rear, I think. We'll work on the propulsion system. Yeah. So we'll come around to the rear of our spaceship. We'll grab the back. And this is going to be extruded outwards. Scaled up. Maybe I'll scale in to start with. I'm going to extrude again. This time it's going to scale up. Something like this. Yep. Just make that a little bit smaller. Because I'm going to extrude again. And I'm going to scale again. So we have a two-step kind of effect there. Nope, I don't really like that. I'll stick with this. Just going to make that one bigger. We'll extrude again. Scale it down slightly. We extrude and don't take it anywhere, so we can scale it flat. Oops. So then we can extrude inwards. Extrude nowhere again, so we can scale in. And then we extrude outwards. And what I'm going to do this time is scale it, but only in one direction. That'll be the Y. Sorry, the Z. And we'll scale it in X. Then we're going to extrude that outwards. That'll get maybe a little bit narrower. I'm going to go into vertex mode. I'm going to grab that bottom vertex and I'm going to move that downwards. So we have a slight shape to the back of our spacecraft there, to our propulsion system. Let's get a bit closer in on this. And then we'll select again the edges. Extrude nowhere. Scale it in. Oops. And then we extrude inwards. One moment. Just let me go back here. Let's grab these edges again. Let's do this again. And scale. Whoops. Extrude. Scale. Then extrude inwards. There we go. That's what I wanted. Okay, so that is our rear propulsion system of our spacecraft. Don't like that square bottom to it so much, so we're just going to put that at an angle. Yeah, so let's grab this bottom. I'm going to grab this corner. And so I'm going to grab those vertices. I go to vertex mode. I'm going to grab these vertices here. I'm going to move everything up like so. Looks a bit better. Get up maybe a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to bring it in slightly. Alright, I think I'm happy with that. And now this square area here, I also want to do something like this. So I'm going to select those vertexes. Make sure I've got them all. Okay, grab those, and then I'm going to shift that down and outwards a little bit and down a little bit more. Okay, there we go. So there's our propulsion system at the rear of our spacecraft. Right, now I want to add in the rear tails. So what I'm going to do, I'll grab my loop cuts, and I'll put one in here, and then put another loop cut into the center here, and then we put another one in here. Okay, so that now will give us 3 tail fins. When I select those 2 objects there and I extrude it out, you'll see now we end up with 3. That's exactly what I wanted. I'll move this back. I'm going to select this one. I'm going to move it out. I'm going to move it down. Down a little bit more. Out a little bit more also. Okay. That's cool. And now this one here, I'm going to grab the back edge, I think. Just the edge only. So I'll go into edge edit mode. Grab that back edge. I'm going to move it up. Oops. Upwards and then backwards. Okay, I think this rear tail is a little bit high, so I'm just going to select the whole face. Move the whole thing down slightly. Okay. Now, I don't like this sharp edge it has on it, so we'll just select those edges. We go to scale, and that will give us a more pointed edge to our tail fin, which I prefer. Now we don't have that edge on the others, so the way that we'll do this is loop cut. Get closer in so I can see it. Oops, it's too close. Okay, so loop cut. Loop cut around there, that's good. Now I just want to select only the bits which go around our tail. And then again we hit scale. We'll scale those up. It gives us the sharp edge. Having it at the top there. Oh, I scaled it the wrong direction, sorry. I scaled inwards. We need to scale outwards. Whoops. What's going on here? Scaling in the wrong direction. Scale outwards, there we go. Okay. There we go. Right. So there's our tails then, I think. That center one's still a little bit fat for my liking, so I'm going to grab this top edge. I'm going to bring that in. In fact, I'm just going to grab the whole face. And I'm going to bring that in a little bit. Now, we've got a kind of V coming down the middle of our spacecraft now, which I don't really want, so let's sort that out. We're going to extrude this upwards. Whoops. And then we need to grab hold of this inner vertex here and move it upwards. You see that's not joined onto our tail piece there. It's separate, which is okay. What we can actually do then is grab a loop cut, place it around here. We grab these two vertices, go to merge at last, and there we go. We can also then do the same here. Merge at last. There we go. And then it's just a matter of manipulating these vertexes into place. Okay. I'm happy with that. It's looking good. Okay, now at the front here, I want this to slope downwards front to back. So, whoops, what's going on with my zoom here? I'm just going to switch into orthogonal mode. It's slightly easier to zoom in and out. And pan around. Okay, so I'm just going to grab this back into edge mode, grab the edge, move it backwards. Yes, now we've got a sloped front part. And also, I think I want to bring this vertex up. Okay. Now we've also got the same type of thing going on here where we did our sharp edge. So grab this. And this, I want to move them up. Oops. Extrude, sorry. Now the rear here, now I've extruded upwards. You can see now we've got this funny thing going on at the rear by the tail. So what I will do is I'll grab those back edges. I'm going to slope this. And that edge there needs to come inwards. Okay. So that's just a little bit of a faff, just sorting out this corner around where we've got the V-shaped area. what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete this vertex. And then I'll move these back. And this one. Let's try and get the top of this sloping upwards slightly. Okay. Now I'm going to recreate a face here. Hit F. Makes us a new face. We'll get the knife and we cut from there to there. Okay. I think that's sorted out our joint at the rear where we have our tail. I'm going to merge a couple of these vertices. So those two will merge at the last. Yeah. And these two here also merge at last. And again, there. Okay. And here. Then we'll join these two faces up. Okay. Grab this edge. Move it inwards. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, I'm just going to tidy up these faces around here. We'll join those up. We'll join this up. And this. Actually, those I'm going to leave as they are because I'm going to utilize that to make our landing legs. Other than that, now, the basic outline of our spacecraft is pretty much there. What I do want to do is pull out the side a little bit here. I'm going to start giving it some more shape. So I'm going to grab my knife tool and we're going to make a slice back there. I'm going to grab this edge, probably pull that out like so. Now this area here, I think I'm going to lift that up a little bit. They're going to be kind of air intakes or something along those lines, so it needs to be a little bit bigger. Whoops. I'm going to grab the vertexes instead and we'll move those upwards. Move this vertex out. Okay. This vertex here, kind of redundant. We don't need it. So we'll merge it with here. When you recreate some of those faces, when we put them together, it leaves these redundant vertexes, which can be a little bit annoying. We have to just go around and fix. Otherwise, they won't really cause any harm, but especially if you want smooth surfaces, they can do. Where you have these vertexes, it can sometimes cause you problems later when you come to rendering. So it's a good idea to get rid of them. Not sure I really want that. Yeah. Okay. We'll do that. And then this vertex here, we're going to move back slightly. And these two I'm going to move outwards a little bit. Okay. And then the whole of the front of here, I'm going to drag out. And these bottom edges, I want to move back. There's some extra edges there for some reason. A couple of those. G and Y. There. Okay. Now then these air intakes I want to make a little bit wider also, so I'm just going to do some working on these. So I'm going to add a knife cut down here. Grab hold of the vertice. We'll move it out and up. Okay, so that's going to be an air intake. So now I want to grab the face. Says actually not the face. What I want to do is get the ring, the edge. Yeah, there we go. Because face there. We'll go extrude. Just bear with me a moment. I had a brain fart there, and we'll scale that in. Extrude inwards and scale it. Okay. So there's our air intake. Now I think I'm just going to actually grab these top faces. I want it to overhang slightly, so I'm going to grab those two top faces here. And we'll move that all forwards a little bit. There. Okay. I'm happy with that. Let's move this down. Okay. Right. So it's starting to look pretty good. We're starting to get the basic, shape is there now of our spacecraft. We've got, some kind of air intake there, or it could be glowing later on when you come to texture it. We've got our rear propulsion system, we've got our wings in. So now the only thing we need now really is the landing gear before we can start adding in more fine details. So we're going to have like a hole where the landing gear comes out of. So I'm going to use these cuts that we've got here already. So I'll go to edge mode. I'm going to grab these edges. Make it a little bit bigger. And oops, I want these two. I'm going to bisect it. Oops. Sorry, subdivide. There we go. Okay, and I'm going to grab this edge and we'll move it forwards. And subdivide again. And move this forwards. Then I want two also at the rear. So subdivide. Subdivide. I'm going to move this back. So I want both of these to be approximately the same size. There, okay. Now I'll select those two faces that we've just created, these two squares, and that will be extruded upwards into our craft there. Okay, and then we will hit E to extrude, but we don't extrude anywhere because then we're going to scale it. So you select one face at a time, sorry. So we'll scale this. Same with this one. And then we extrude this time out. Oops, that's a little bit too far. Okay, so there's our kind of landing legs. I'm going to move them out a little bit. I want to make sure that they're not intersecting our squares, which yes they are, so we need to move them in. Okay, so they're just subtly pointing outwards. Now I'm going to scale it a little bit to make them smaller. A little bit fat. Okay, and then on the bottoms of these there'll be these flat pads which our spacecraft can actually land on. So grab both of those, extrude, oops, and scale this. Something like that. Needs to be a bit bigger, I think. So there's our landing pads, our landing gear for our spacecraft. So there is most of our shape already done, really. It's going to be a matter now of going around and adding in finer details. Panels and windows and doors and you know, a lot of it you could do with textures, but I want to actually model this in. I'm not sure if I'm going to texture this. I might just leave it as a plain white model. So anyway, this is the end of part 1 of the tutorial. I think it's gone on long enough, and you should have a good idea now how to begin modeling your own spacecraft. You know, start with a cube and just basically we're just extruding out and we're pulling vertices and pulling edges and combining faces until you have a spacecraft. So something you could imagine flying through space and maybe transporting man to Mars in the future, who knows. So in part 2 we're going to start refining this model, adding more detail to it, and so I hope you enjoyed this. If you found it useful, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you can keep up to date with part 2 of this tutorial.